Hello, on the programme this evening.
8 men who sued Manchester City over sexual abuse at the hands of paedophile football coach Barry Bennell lose their legal fights for damages.
Is Greater Manchester's proposed clean air zone a solution to pollution or a body blow for business? A special report coming up.
Border conflict. The English football club facing its toughest match yet against the government of Wales over COVID regulations.
Elvis lives on. We've tracked him down to a canal boat in Crewe.
And high pressure builds in through this week. What does it mean for us? We'll find out later on in the programme.
Well, first, 8 men who sued Manchester City for damages after being sexually abused by the paedophile football coach Barry Bennell have lost their case in the High Court.
The men, now in their 40s and 50s, claim Bennell targeted them while they were just boys, and he was working for the club as a talent scout between 1979 and 1985.
But a judge says City never actually employed Bennell and were not legally responsible for the abuse. The solicitor representing all 8 men has told us they intend to appeal.
Our reporter Tim Scott's outside Manchester City's ground now. Tim, tell us the background to this case.
Yes, the 8 men who were suing Manchester City were all children when they were abused by Barry Bennell. They claimed he was a scout for the club at the time and said Bennell's relationship with them was one of employment, that he was working for them, or one akin to employment. City, though, denied the claims, telling the court Bennell was a scout for them in the mid-1970s, but not when the men were abused between 1979 and 1985. And today, Mr Justice Johnson said it hadn't been shown that City were legally responsible for Bennell's acts of abuse. He also ruled the men's claims had been brought too late to ensure a fair trial, despite them having good reasons for doing so.
And Tim, what have the men's lawyers had to say about the ruling?
Yes, the law firm representing the men said they're disappointed with the outcome, and one of their solicitors spoke to us earlier.
The judge accepted that the abuse took place. The judge confirmed that Barry Bennell is a manipulative liar and that none of his evidence was accepted. And furthermore, he accepted that Bennell was a scout for Manchester City, was looking for children for Manchester City to join their youth teams. And so it seems somewhat strange for the decision then to come to that Manchester City can't be held liable for Bennell's actions, which is why we will be appealing.
In a statement, the club told us Manchester City has both personally and publicly apologised without reservation for the unimaginable suffering each survivor has experienced as a result of the abuse they suffered. The club reiterates that apology today to the survivors and to multiple family members and friends affected by the traumatic events, the ramifications of which are felt by so many to the present day and will continue to be felt for a long time to come. Now, City did launch a compensation scheme back in 2019 for survivors of historic sexual abuse, and it's understood that many have taken advantage of it. As for the men affected by today's judgment, their law firms say they do plan to launch an appeal. Elaine Gamal.
OK, Tim, thank you.
Next, and the mother of one of the 22 people killed in the Manchester Arena attack has welcomed plans by the government to make entertainment venues provide security.
Yeah, Figan Murray has campaigned for the introduction of new rules which have become known as Martin's Law after her son Martin Hett, who was killed in the bombing in May 2017.
And today the government published findings which they say will make it a legal duty for some public venues to have plans in place to protect customers and staff from terrorist attacks.
Our correspondent Amy Welch is in our newsroom now. So Amy, this has been a long campaign, hasn't it?
That's right. Figan Murray has fought tirelessly for Martin's Law to become a reality. She was shocked when she went to a concert 18 months after Martin's death and found security measures were still insufficient. And she wants venues to be required by law to ensure specific measures are in place to protect the public from terror attacks. She also wants to ensure staff are properly trained so that they know how to respond. Well, today, after an 18-week consultation, the government published plans which very much agree with her. 2,755 people responded to the consultation on the proposed Protect duty, and 70% of them said venues should by law be compelled to have anti-terror measures in place. I spoke to her a little earlier and she told me this really is a huge step forward.
No matter how much intelligence we have, how much police there is around, some people who are radicalised in their bedrooms can strike any moment. And that's why, certainly at venues, this legislation is so important that it kicks in ASAP so that at least there we can go and enjoy ourselves.
Well, it is, of course, nearly 5 years since the attack happened at the Manchester Arena, and while this is a step in the right direction, it isn't law yet. The Home Office insists they will introduce the new legislation at the earliest opportunity, and it's Fegan's hope that that may be in time for the anniversary this coming May.
And Amy, although there's still a wait for Martin's Law to become reality, the inquiry's been hearing about other security improvements.
That's right. When Sir John Saunders published his report into security failings that led to the arena attack last year, he made a series of recommendations. And today, the inquiry heard about the many improvements that have been made by the arena owners, SMG, the security company Showsec and the British Transport Police. Specific risk assessments are now carried out for every single event, and sniffer dogs have been introduced. There is no longer a CCTV blind spot where Abedi hid before he carried out the attack, and on event days only people with tickets can enter that area. Staff carrying out bag checks have to have a special licence. However, concerns were raised today over the fact they do still do much of their training on mobile phones rather than face-to-face. And in the case of a terrorist attack, it will now be Greater Manchester Police rather than the British Transport Police who have responsibility for the arena.
Well, Amy, who's followed the inquiry from the beginning, thank you. Next, a body's been found in the search for a student who disappeared before Christmas. 20-year-old Charlie Gadd from Essex was last seen on December the 11th after going to the warehouse project in Manchester with his parents. He was spotted on CCTV near the Royal Exchange Theatre. A body's been recovered from the Manchester Ship Canal. His family are being supported by specialist officers.
300 bus drivers in Manchester have gone on strike for 2 days in a dispute over pay and conditions. The Unite Union say members working for First Buses haven't been given a reasonable offer. The bus companies say they've made every attempt to avoid industrial action.
Meanwhile, tens of thousands of people have signed a petition in support of a bus driver from Rochdale who it's claimed was sacked for being too short. Tracy Scholes was given notice after the operator Go Northwest repositioned the wing mirrors on their vehicles, which meant she couldn't reach them safely. The Unite Union claims the change meant Tracy, who is 5 foot tall, no longer had the capability to safely drive their buses. 24,000 people have signed a petition supporting her.
The Pierhead Ferry Terminal in Liverpool is to be renamed after one of the city's most famous sons, Jerry Marsden. The former lead singer of Jerry and the Pacemakers died last January. The Liverpool Jerry Marsden Ferry Terminal will be officially dedicated in a ceremony later this year. As well as You'll Never Walk Alone, the group also had a hit with Ferry Cross the Mersey. Well, next, and the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, is expected to meet the area's council leaders this week over the proposed introduction of a controversial clean air zone.
The aim is to cut pollution by forcing drivers of certain vehicles to pay to use them on some of the region's roads.
But over 33,000 people have signed a petition against it. This afternoon, taxi drivers in Bolton staged a go-slow drive through the town to protest at the plans, which could see charges of up to £7.50 a day imposed on cabbies.
Our correspondent Mel Barham spoke to business and leisure people who face having to pay the charge and environmental campaigners who think it doesn't go far enough.
It's supposed to clean up our air and reduce the number of polluting vehicles on our region's roads. But the clean air zone proposed for Greater Manchester has been highly controversial. It's set to be one of the largest in Europe, and a petition against it has now been signed by more than 33,000. It will cover all 10 boroughs of Greater Manchester. It's expected to come into effect on the 30th of May, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From that date, some high-emission vehicles like buses, coaches and lorries face charges of between £7.50 and £60 a day. Vans and minibuses will be charged from June 2023. Private cars and motorcycles will be exempt, and motorways and certain major roads won't be included.
Well, it's going to cripple most little businesses.
Mark owns an ice cream van business in Tameside. If the scheme goes ahead, he'll have to fork out £10 a day for each of his vans. That's almost £25,000 a year. He would qualify for a £5,000 grant, but Mark says these vans are difficult to retrofit, and to buy a new compliant vehicle would cost him around £70,000, money he just doesn't have.
We'll definitely have to go out. You've got to go out of business. I'm very upset, very emotional about the whole procedure, really, because after all these years trading and going through COVID, going through a world war, we've got to close the business. So I could actually start crying now. It's that emotional.
But it's not just businesses that will be affected. Leisure users too are in uproar. Mel Morris uses a horse box to transport her horses to the local riding school and to shows.
Most of the horse box drivers and the horsey people that I know simply can't afford to upgrade their horse box. So the air quality will not be changed at all. The only thing that will come out of this is that the clean air zone will make a lot of money out of it because people will just have to pay. They can't afford to upgrade their horse boxes. It costs simply too much money to do that.
Alan too is facing the prospect of losing the hobby he loves. 4 years ago he saved up to buy this motorhome to enjoy in his retirement. But every time it leaves his drive, he's set to pay a £10 charge.
It makes me feel very sad. It's something that you work all your life and you look forward to doing something which is a bit of a dream. We all can't afford to go out and buy £100,000 motorhomes and everything, so we bought what we felt was the right buy at the time. We've worked on it, we've spent on it, and we had a dream for our retirement years, and it's just another cost now that's put on top of us, and something's got to give. And unfortunately, in our circumstances, it looks like our motorhome would have to go.
But Manchester's mayor and the 10 Greater Manchester councils insist they are legally obligated by the government to introduce the scheme, with air pollution levels above legal limits. Environmentalists agree.
Typically in Greater Manchester, between 70 and 80% of the air pollution is caused by vehicles. And of that, about 70% of that comes from private cars. So for us, this scheme, whilst it's welcome, doesn't actually go far enough.
There's definitely ways the scheme could be adapted to become more fair, but inevitably something needs to happen and sacrifices are going to have to be made. We can't create this sort of like safe planet in a safe environment in the business as usual framework that we've got, because that's what's caused the issues in the first place. It's only going to get worse from here if we don't take action, and there's a real threat that people of my generation and those yet to come will be really, really disadvantaged by this, and it can have a real first-hand impact on our health.
With concerns over the financial support available and supply chains for new vehicles, Andy Burnham and council leaders say they'll be reviewing the scheme this week. The question is, can they or will they slam the brakes on? Mel Barham, ITV News.
Well, some strong feelings there, and there's lots more information about Greater Manchester's Clean Air Zone on our website right now, and just who will be charged if you head to itv.com/Granada for more there. Lots to come on the programme, but first a quick look at what's coming up on the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary.
Coming up on the programme, bring your own booze to socially distanced drinks. The email to more than 100 people that lifts the lid on allegations of another Downing Street lockdown party. ITV News has obtained the invitation from the PM's private secretary, sent in May 2020 when we were all banned from meeting more than one other person outdoors. Also ahead, back on court, Novak Djokovic says he's pleased and grateful after he's allowed to enter Australia. And how Mary Berry is set for a big royal role at this summer's Jubilee. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Now to the row between Chester FC and the Welsh Government over claims the club broke COVID rules.
Yes, Chester, whose Bumpers Lane ground straddles the England and Wales border, held 2 home games over Christmas in front of crowds of more than 2,000 spectators.
The Welsh Government claims fan numbers should have been limited in accordance with COVID regulations in Wales. Our correspondent Andy Bonner takes up the story.
We consider ourselves an English football club and a stadium that is partly in England and partly in Wales. We've worked really hard as a club to ensure that everything we do is in compliance with the regulations that we believe are applicable to us. And that's what we've done throughout the pandemic and what we propose to continue doing.
In fact, under Welsh rules, only 50 people are currently allowed in the stadium. There are no restrictions in England. The confusion could leave this fan-owned club in a risky position.
We rely on the crowd attendance that comes in, so having games played behind closed doors, you know, the tuck shops aren't getting any money, the gates aren't getting any money, which ultimately means the club's not getting any money, and that could be our survival in this league, or actually as in no club whatsoever.
Now, depending on who you speak to, there are various ideas about exactly where the border is. It could be out in the car park, running through the middle of the stand behind me, or even out here on the pitch. Regardless, what's important now is which side the rules fall on.
We are an English football club. The stadium is only accessible from England. Yes, part of it is located in Wales, but it's a contained site. We would contend that the risk to the public health situation in Wales is extremely minimal.
Wales's First Minister Mark Drayford has called for a pragmatic solution to the issue. Talks with the club were continuing today. The Welsh Government says Chester is eligible for financial support, but it insists Chester's home games fall under Welsh restrictions.
We're talking at the moment about Chester Football Club. It's a very...
At the local radio station, there is only one talking point.
What do you think the answer is?
It's a very good question, the $64 million question, isn't it? But hopefully common sense will prevail. I've seen that Mark Drakeford was on TV yesterday talking about it, basically saying just sort it out and hopefully we can come to a sensible solution. And that's what everybody wants.
Tonight, Chester's volunteer bosses are deciding their next move. Do they postpone upcoming games or continue under English rules? Either way, this is a match they are determined not to concede. Andy Bonner, ITV News, Chester.
Now, here on Granada Reports, we love a winner. So when Paul Crone suggested going to meet the 3rd best Elvis tribute act in the world, we had some doubts.
Yeah, stay with us on this one. Even more so when we heard he was the 3rd best way back in 2007. But Paul Larkham from Cheshire is back out on the road again with his act after almost 2 years of COVID hibernation.
Crone went to his canal boat to meet the man known as the Wonder of Crewe. Thank you very much.
Suspicious minds might wonder what these costumes are doing on a canal boat in Cheshire, but they belong to Paul Larkham, one of the country's leading Elvis Presley tribute acts.
After the show, baby.
I've always been an idiot and liked entertaining people, and it was always a good way to entertain people as I got older. You know, to stick the jumpsuit on and come out and entertain people, but and singing the music that I love as well, yeah.
Down in Louisiana, where the alligators grow so mean, I left a girl that I swear to the world make the alligators look tame. Poke salad, Annie.
Paul has performed in numerous countries and has even played at Graceland. In 2007, he was the only non-American in the top 10 of Elvis tribute acts in a competition held by USA Today. Probably left him all shook up.
I was new to the game, to the contest sort of world, and when I got through, everything was a bonus. I was never expecting to. I was happy just getting through to the final of the European heat and being amongst all these other brilliant tributes.
So are you ready for your Elvis fact of the day? Of course you are. He bought Graceland when he was just 22 years old and he paid the princely sum of $102,000 for it. Thank you very much.
Well, train arrived. It's 16 coaches long.
Back on his boat in Cheshire, Paul has his constant companion boss with him. Yeah, he ain't nothing but a hound dog. Sorry.
I don't think I'll ever stop entertaining. So long as I can, I'm physically able to do it, I'll always be entertaining. But I think there'll come a point where I need to hang the jumpsuits up and maybe go to jacket and trousers and not as many rhinestones, but slowly wean off them, you know.
Paul is a guy that lets his singing do the talking. Well, a little less conversation and all that. Paul Crone, ITV News, Aldlam, Cheshire.
He's very good, isn't he? He's got an excellent voice.
Cracking voice. And he's got all the costumes.
Yeah, lots of cheesy Elvis puns in that piece as well. Well done, Craney. Joe's got the weather.
Now that is brew weather.
And only boiling what she needs.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Big up you, sis.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. High pressure becomes our friend weather-wise this week, and our weather will be settling down nicely with lots of dry weather ahead, some sunshine, light winds, and temperatures not doing too badly at all for the time of year, but there will be a touch of frost to come over the next few nights. Some rain around tonight and the very early hours of tomorrow, and once that clears through, high pressure builds in from the southwest. And there it stays, really, for the next week or so, giving us lots of quiet weather across the UK, light winds and some sunshine. Not wall to wall, but certainly plenty of it as we go through the next few days or so for us. In the meantime, tonight, it's misty, murky. There's patchy rain and drizzle at first, and then the early hours of Tuesday, something a little bit more steady rain-wise for a time. With that low cloud and mistiness and those damp conditions, most of us are free from frost. But by the end of the night, parts of Cumbria and the Isle of Man will begin to see that cloud and rain clearing and temperatures just dropping away there. On to tomorrow. The sun will be up tomorrow morning at 8:24, setting just before 4:15 tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow then, perhaps if you're up very early, you'll see that rain first of all, but it's pushing down into the southeast and away very quickly. Skies will brighten and it's set to be a really nice day. Tomorrow afternoon, lots of lovely sunshine, feeling pretty pleasant as well. Temperatures up to around 8 or 9 Celsius, a gentle breeze to look forward to, and perhaps a little bit chilly tomorrow night. But looking ahead to the next few days, it's actually looking lovely and settled for the time of year. Wednesday and Thursday giving us plenty of sunshine, cold nights to come, but winds are falling very light, and it's dry again and fine on Friday. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
2 sugars, please. Oh, lovely.
Well, Joe, thank you very much. That was bad, wasn't it? Look, it's only fair that I had a go, Chris had a go, you had a go, but that was poor. I'll keep practising. That's it for tonight's programme.
I'll have your late news after news at 10.
As always, many thanks indeed for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.
And Elvis has left the building.
Bye-bye.
Have a very good night. Bye-bye.